Picture a young man walking onto the football pitch, a storm of expectation swirling around him. He is tall, powerful, fearless, and yet behind his calm exterior lies a volcano waiting to erupt. His name, Mario Balotelli. The boy from Palermo, adopted, misunderstood, and destined to divide opinion every time he touched the ball. From the very beginning, he wasn't just another footballer. He was a symbol, a spark, a headline waiting to be written. But ask yourself, how does a boy who had the world at his feet end up being remembered more for the chaos than the brilliance? This is not just a story about goals or trophies. This is the haunting tale of a man who carried the weight of genius and madness in equal measure. Italy in the late 2000s was in love with talent, but unforgiving to those who dared to be different. Balotelli was different in every sense. Born to Ghanaian immigrants but raised in an Italian foster home, his identity was always questioned, his place in society constantly debated. And yet, when he stepped onto the field, there was no question at all. He could dominate, he could destroy, he could change a game in an instant. At Inter Milan, under the watchful eye of Jose Mourinho, the football world saw flashes of what he could become. A teenager scoring in Champions League matches, a player who made seasoned defenders tremble. But even then, the whispers began. Was he disciplined enough? Was he mature enough? Could he handle the pressure that came with fame? The hook was irresistible. A young prodigy with a mischievous smile and a reputation for breaking the rules. Reporters chased him. Coaches feared him, teammates admired and resented him all at once. But behind the chaos was a kid craving love, craving acceptance, craving to be understood. His career was not just a climb, it was a battlefield, and every game felt like a test. The iconic phrase would come years later, plastered on a shirt beneath his jersey. Why always me? Question that defined him, haunted him, and ultimately followed him like a curse. But before that infamous moment, Balotelli's life was already a tightrope walk between glory and self-destruction. The story of Mario Balotelli is not just football. It's fire and tragedy, it's genius wrapped in controversy, it's the rise of a boy who wanted to be a man too soon, and the fall of a man who never truly left the boy behind. The camera zooms in. The stadium roars. It's Euro 2012 and Italy is facing Germany in the semi-final. The ball is played through, Balotelli sprints, muscles past defenders and unleashes a thunderbolt into the top corner. The crowd erupts, the commentator screams, and then Mario stops. He rips off his shirt, stands like a gladiator, sculpted and still, eyes burning with defiance. That image becomes immortal. A celebration etched into football history. This was not just a goal, it was a declaration. This was Balotelli's peak, his masterpiece, the night he silenced critics and became a hero. Cinematic as it was, Balotelli's journey to that moment was riddled with conflict. At Manchester City he became a cult figure, adored by fans for his unpredictability both on and off the pitch. One week he would score impossible goals, the next he would set off fireworks inside his bathroom. He was chaos personified, and yet there was something magnetic about him. Every touch of the ball felt like a gamble. Would it end in brilliance or disaster? Peppered throughout his time in England were moments that made him larger than life. Helping a child bullied at school, giving money to the homeless, paying strangers' bills. For every headline of recklessness, there was another of kindness. But the balance was fragile. Roberto Mancini, the man who knew him best, fought tirelessly to protect him. But even Mancini would admit with Mario, "You never know what will happen." Then came the game that would define his phrase. Against Manchester United in a fiery derby, Balotelli opened the scoring. He lifted his shirt to reveal the words, "Why always me?" The cameras froze on it. The world asked the same question. It was funny, it was cheeky, but it was also deeply revealing. Balotelli wasn't just mocking the media, he was crying out, asking why he was always the one under the microscope, why every mistake he made was amplified. It became his symbol, his burden, and his legacy all in one. That cinematic high, however, was as fleeting as a firework in the night sky. His life at City unraveled, discipline slipping, controversies piling, and soon the fairy tale turned into a slow collapse. He would leave, return to Milan, try to resurrect his career, but something had shifted. The boy who once stood like a warrior against Germany was slowly being consumed by the weight of expectation and the fire of his own impulses. The stage that once celebrated him began to turn away. His story was no longer about what he could do, but about what he refused to do, control the chaos within. And now, the emotional undertow of Balotelli's life begins to surface. For every roar of the crowd, there was silence waiting at home. For every celebration, there was loneliness behind closed doors. The boy who laughed, who entertained, who gave the world unforgettable moments, was also a boy scarred by rejection. His struggles with identity, being Italian but not accepted as truly Italian by many, weighed heavily. Racism was not a distant monster, it was a reality he faced from stands from opponents, sometimes even from within his own country. How could a man carry the hopes of millions when he himself often felt like an outsider? Those close to him often described Mario as sensitive, easily hurt, desperate for belonging. He wasn't the arrogant villain many painted him to be. He was fragile, sometimes lost, always misunderstood. This emotional complexity fueled his erratic behavior. The fireworks, the fights, the controversies, they were cries for attention, for affection, for recognition beyond the goals. At Liverpool, the decline was heartbreaking. Once the golden boy, now he was labeled a failure. Brendan Rodgers saw potential but grew tired of the unpredictability. Fans who once adored him grew frustrated. The magic was fading, and Balotelli knew it. To watch him now was to watch a man fighting against shadows, against the ghosts of what he once was. He tried comebacks, tried to rediscover the fire, but each return felt like a faint echo of the brilliance he had shown in the past. What makes this story emotional is not just the fall, but the tragedy of wasted potential. How many players in history could dominate like he did on that Euro 2012 night? How many could inspire fear with just a glance? And yet, how many threw it all away piece by piece, moment by moment? Balotelli's story hurts because we saw the genius, and we saw it slip away, not because he wasn't good enough, but because he couldn't control the storm within. And in the end, the saddest part is that Mario Balotelli never truly answered his own question. Why always him? Why was he the lightning rod, the scapegoat, the misunderstood genius? Or maybe, deep down, the answer was simpler, because Mario Balotelli was never meant to be ordinary. He was fire, and fire by its nature is destined to burn out. The lights dim, the applause fades, and the story of Mario Balotelli draws to its close. In the end, his career feels like a film with an unfinished script. The boy who was supposed to be Italy's savior, the striker who was supposed to dominate the Premier League, the man who was supposed to grow into greatness, never fully did. His rise was meteoric, his fall dramatic, and his legacy forever tangled in contradiction. Dramatic irony surrounds him. Even now, when his name is mentioned, fans don't first recall his goals. They recall the headlines, the controversies, the moments of madness. And yet, beneath that drama, there remains a haunting memory of what could have been. The gladiator stance in Warsaw, the cheeky shirt against United, the unstoppable pace and power in his youth. Flashes of a legend, fragments of a story that could have ended differently. His career never reached the heights it promised, but maybe that is what makes it so compelling. Mario Balotelli was never just a footballer. He was a story, a riddle, a firework that lit up the night and disappeared before anyone was ready. His fall is not just about wasted talent. It is about the fragility of genius, the weight of expectation, and the danger of living in a world that demands perfection from those who are anything but perfect. The final act leaves us with the ultimate question. If Mario had been born in another time, in another place, surrounded by people who could guide him better, would the outcome have changed? Or was this always his destiny? To rise, to fall, to remain forever suspended between brilliance and chaos. The curtain closes on Mario Balotelli, but the echoes remain. His legacy is not measured in trophies, but in moments. Moments that defied logic, moments that entertained millions, moments that captured the beauty and the tragedy of football itself. And as the screen fades to black, the words linger. The same words that defined him, mocked him, and yet told the truth of his story. Why always